Our question to you today: do you believe in God, a God, in the idea of a creator? Or do you think of life as a result of biological evolution and that led to what it is at today? Share your opinion in the comments. In this era, and more than ever, answers are sought. In this era, and more than any other time in history, humans are asking questions, taking new paths, experiencing new lives in the search for the real thing, for the true path, especially at the spiritual level. And it is in this very era where the world is saturated with spiritual schools, theological perspectives, and supposed godly information that, in application, humanity is tilting far away from these sad principles and values. In a globalized world, and where there is possibility of access to thousands of years of information, wisdom, and knowledge, and where we can make somewhat informed choices, we find in practice believers, faithful people, praying people, subject to unfairness, injustice, and pain, imposed pain, struggle, and challenges, or maybe doing well financially and regarding earthly matters, but struggling and unable to find their peace of heart, mind, and spirit, and that heals their pains and mends their bruises. When humans are born, they are given a name, given a religion, and tied to a doctrine. A doctrine they spend their life fighting for, and defending, even dying for, either by choice or necessity. Most people take whatever doctrine is given to them as definitive truths, adopting it in its entirety, living and dying for it and by it, without ever questioning any part of it, and even reshaping the essence of the faith to align it with the doctrine, and rewriting the applied faith as per a distorted vision, far in essence and spirit from the original message. And there are some people who, in every era and since the beginning of time, seek to go deeper, much deeper, into the heart of the divine. There are some who would get lost and misguided in the process, and there are some who would dawn on themselves, becoming custodians of the covenant, children of the path, carriers of the light to whomever seeks to see, and whomever yearns to satisfy his heart, mind, and spirit. I am Samer. Many of you know me from my books and self-development programs covering various levels of the human development realm, and which are available globally, whether through Amazon or my personal website. As many of you have experienced, these programs guide you on a practical and distinctive path of self-development, from material success to self-reconciliation, diving into pleasures and carnal desires and the physical relationship between partners as a gateway to spiritual development. In the same practical and concise spirit that you are accustomed to, this podcast is born. This podcast is not a coincidence. This podcast came as an answer to the suffering we are witnessing in this world. This podcast stems from the belief that God is forgiving, God is compassionate, God is just, God is love, and that God cannot be the creator of everything and the creator of everyone, the creator of all who loves all, and yet grants salvation only to a certain part of the creation just because they followed a specific religion. And in a very specific way, as given to some of the creation. It is noteworthy that to this day, after more than 6,000 years of civilization and around 4,000 years since the time of Abraham and God's covenant with him, even in the midst of globalization, there are still places on this small planet that do not have access to a message given to the other parts of the world. At a time, each and all religions insist that they are the one and only door and pathway to eternity. This podcast originates from the belief that the one who created everything in the world and the universe, and who has set and defined clear and universal rules, and whom has established definitive laws to govern every aspect of creation and life, couldn't have ignored to create a definitive and universal law for the human spirit, and one law governing human existence, and that applies to all life at all times and in all places without discrimination, favoritism, or injustice to anyone. A law that reflects God's heart in love and justice, far from pain. This podcast is rooted in the belief that theology is not literature or philosophy. Theology is applied divine sciences, and the question is not on as to how to justify God in times of crisis to align with our practical limitations, but rather on as to how to reinterpret our heritage for us to return into the heart of God. God does not kill children with illness. God does not sicken a mother devoted to her family. God does not sicken parents whose children need. God does not oppress innocents and does not accept oppressing innocents. And most importantly, God does not turn away a believer. He does not turn away parents imploring at his door, seeking a healing for their children. Nor does he ignore a crying daughter praying for her mother's relief, nor a suffering patient. Especially if the pain is imposed and involuntary. Otherwise, he would fall short of the very attributes that define him. And here lies the purpose of this podcast. At a time, humans compete to explain God with philosophy and sword. We will delve into his heart, his promise, and his works to reshape our understanding and convictions in his image. Today, you may believe in God, a concept of creation, or not believe at all. You may believe that life goes on by itself, or not believe in that. You may or not believe that it is the result of absolute coincidence. Whether we are believers or non-believers, this existence, which has laws for everything, also has laws that apply to human life and the human soul. This is where this podcast originated. We are not here to talk about religion. We won't discuss religions, nor will we discuss creeds, nor will we debate or compare religions or faith paths. Instead, this podcast came to be for us to share existential truths and that have been proven over time. Existential truths that govern human life and human existence. Existential truths that have become known. Existential truths that enable humans to align with this existence, to coexist in it, and to be one with existence. And to be one with existence in a way that benefits their interest, their soul's well-being, their self-development, and the well-being of humanity. These are laws that help you, as a human, live the earthly experience successfully and happily, so you can experience paradise starting from this existential plane, thus being ready for the other dimensions. I want to start by saying this podcast is for you if you are ready to explore and experience such existential truths. This podcast is for you if you are ready to accept the idea that there is a law that applies to everyone and that you, no matter your religion, your orientation, or your creed, are not the only one who is right, and that everyone have the same chance at salvation. This podcast is for you should you be seeking a serious relationship with existence. This podcast is for you if you are ready to believe that whatever laws apply to this world, you can draw love, health, success, and power from it on this plane of life before you ascend and unite with existence. This podcast is for you if there is someone you love and for who you are willing to discover your spiritual power, at least to help them. This podcast is for you. if you are ready to accept the idea that everything happens for the good of those who love God, that everything happens for your good if you know how to be part of existence. And this podcast is not for you if you are convinced that you came to this planet to suffer, be in pain, and die, only to then enjoy yourself in another place or another life, noting that having a good life now and here on this plane does in no way mean that you shall be going to a bad place later. This podcast is not for you if you are convinced that you are good and everyone else is bad. This podcast is not for you if you are convinced that some people are infallible and you must follow them no matter what they do or say. This podcast is not for you if you are convinced that whatever you believe is correct and final forever, especially if it comes from schools of thought or faith that have not benefited you neither on a physical nor a spiritual level. This podcast is definitely not for you if you accept the idea of harming anyone on a basis of belief. This particular podcast is not a religious discussion program. This podcast does not compare religions. This podcast is not here to invite you to a new religion or a new group or anything of the like. With this podcast, you will discover how within your faith, within your rituals, within your daily life, in your normal life, among your people and community, you are able to see the truths that exist. Choose from them what benefits your soul and reject destructive traditions. And within your faith, you shall get to know the Lord and elevate your relationship with Him. With this podcast, you will elevate yourself in your normal life with the rituals that you know to become an example of success, a beacon of love, and a light in your society, in your life, and for your family. At the same time, you shall be able to live the life that you are living on this earth, on this planet, in this existential dimension, successfully, and influence those around you. With this podcast, every day, we shall remember a dimension that many of us have forgotten and that applies to our daily life. We shall remember a spiritual dimension that we may have overlooked, forgotten, or ignored. Perhaps some of you might say, but I don't believe in the idea of God or a deity in the first place. I tell you, it doesn't matter what you believe or don't believe. Today, we are here to talk about the way existence works, about laws that will apply to you regardless of your opinion of them, whether you believe or not, whether you believe it or not, because these laws transcend biological laws, physical laws, and natural laws in the relationship between humans and existence, between this living being and existence, and they shall apply to you no matter what. All that is required of you is for you to truly allow yourself to take this opportunity to experience these laws in your life. In this podcast, we shall start with earthly sciences, from which we shall go into esoterics, dive into scripture, rise into apostolic legacy and the holy sacraments, only to dawn on divine truths. Not from a religious perspective, but rather from a practical, all-time valid, eternal truths. Some might ask, why is it that I speak in one gender's language and not the other? The answer is that the persons spiritually mature enough to understand my content will understand through it and won't mind. At a time, those that do mind enough for it to be an encumbrance and barrier for them to accept the knowledge are yet to be ready for it. Our question to you today: do you believe in God, a God, in the idea of a creator? Or do you think of life as a result of biological evolution and that led to what it is at today? Share your opinion in the comments. I am Samer Mirai, and welcome to the Samer Mirai Show.